in Alabama, we are really kind of witnessing something that is both revolutionary, inspiring, and heartbreaking at the same time because we understand that it is born out of desperation. So, prison workers are on strike in Alabama, and as part of the retaliation against this strike, they are now being denied food. And I want us to read a bit here from the Alabama Reporter. And the article reads, at least the headline reads, Alabama prison strike enters its third day. This article was published Wednesday. So today, I believe, is actually day 5 of the prison workers' strike. The Alabama Department of Corrections confirmed Wednesday that most male facilities in the state are still experiencing worker stoppages and that facilities have switched to 2 meals a day as a result of the general strike and protest launched by incarcerated individuals on Monday. The ADOC, in a statement released on Wednesday, said, quote, each facility's operations are affected differently, and that security measures such as control of movement have been deployed, quote, to maintain a secure environment within the facilities. ADOC facilities have maintained a holiday meal schedule since the beginning of the strike on Monday, wherein incarcerated individuals are only fed twice a day. We read that again, where incarcerated individuals are only fed twice each day. Correctional facilities around the state are unable to provide full meal services without incarcerated labor, even if correctional staffing numbers are at full capacity, which they appear to be. Out of everything in this piece, that sentence is the only thing that I really took issue with, because according to whom? According to whom? Let me read the sentence again. It said, correctional facilities around the state are unable, like that's a factual statement, are unable to provide full meal services without incarcerated labor, even if correctional staffing numbers were at full capacity. I mean, you have to take the word, and when I say have to, you shouldn't, but that comes directly from the ADOC themselves. Like the journalists and the outlet don't know that for a fact. Like, I don't know that inmates can only receive 2 meals a day because of the incarcerated individuals' worker stoppages. If all the fucking non-incarcerated people showed up to work, why the fuck can't you provide full meal service? That don't even make no goddamn sense. Tell them motherfuckers to get off their ass. I'm talking about the prison staff, and get in that goddamn kitchen and get these people up some goddamn food. A spokesperson for the ADOC said in a statement released on Wednesday that the change in the meal service was, quote, not a retaliatory measure logistically, but they said it's logistically necessary to ensure that the other critical services were still being provided. That sounds like a goddamn lie. Because how in the fuck all of a sudden, coincidentally, on the first day of the incarcerated folks strike, that sounds like a big lie. Since the beginning of the strike, incarcerated individuals at ADOC facilities system-wide have alleged that the switch to 2 meals a day, which some have described as bird feeding, which is a starvation tactic used against protesting prison people, was in direct retaliation for the strike and the peaceful protests. Make no mistake about that. Quote, once the work stoppages end, facilities will once again be able to provide regular meal service, said a spokesperson for the ADOC. Isn't that? It's just funny. It's just a funny coincidence how that kind of works. Yes. There was another piece in here. Okay. So speaking to a source on the inside, this is the Alabama Reporter. Quote, again, speaking to a source on the inside. Hold on. Let me make sure I'm attributing that correction. Okay. A source within the Staten Correctional Facility who asked to remain anonymous for fear of retaliation confirmed to the Alabama Reporter on Wednesday that an incident occurred Wednesday morning involving incarcerated individuals who refused to leave the facility kitchen, resulting in a dog team coming in to remove the men. The facility has been especially volatile in the time since the strike began on Monday. Quote, everyone is exhausted, the source said in a statement on Wednesday. Staten only has one steward where we should have 6, so there's not any backup for her except for security. I fear that the longer this strike continues, the more violence will erupt, end quote. So we are going to get into a couple of videos here, and let me just add this really quickly in this piece. The U.S. Justice Department, in their ongoing lawsuit with the state of Alabama, alleges that due to a system-wide overcrowding and lack of correction guards as a result. Did I read that? Alleges that due to system-wide overcrowding and a lack of correctional guards at the facilities around the state, more instances of violence and death are happening as a result. There we go. Okay, so these videos that we're about to see, and let me just give y'all, I guess, trigger warnings, because this is like descriptions of violence, descriptions of inhumane treatment. The first video we're going to see is from a formerly incarcerated woman who was in jail in Alabama for some time. And she talks about the different companies that are specifically profiting off prison labor. And in this clip, we're going to see, she's going to talk about Burger King and the ways that Burger King in Alabama are profiting off the labor of incarcerated people. But clearly, the incarcerated people are not getting the money of which they are exerting their labor for. Yeah. So that's the first video. The second video we're going to see is of a incarcerated person who, and again, shout out to the incarcerated folks. They are getting these cell phones all in the jail. Like they are able to document quite a bit. And big up to the Free Alabama movement on Twitter. They are posting a lot of these videos that have been shot on the inside, giving us a first-hand accounting of the inhumane conditions and especially the acts of retaliation against incarcerated folks who are participating in this prison strike. So first video is going to see a formerly incarcerated woman. The second video you're going to see is a incarcerated man detailing what he has heard about from the prisoners and about what their the prison guards, what they intend to do should the strike persist. And then the last clip we're going to see is of an incarcerated person showing us what these bird feeding meals are looking like, these twice a day meals, we'll call them that, quote unquote meals, that incarcerated folks who are participating in this Alabama prison strike are being fed, and it is absolutely retaliatory. So let's take a look at these videos. Shout out to the Free Alabama movement.
America would have to make a different choice to choose to care about people's humanity versus profit. My name is Brittany White. I go by Britt. Before I went to prison, I was a regular 23-year-old living in Atlanta, going to church, making money every day to figure out how to party and just enjoy my youth in the city. I was incarcerated in the state of Alabama for 5 years. When I was incarcerated and I was community status working at Burger King, the state of Alabama would take 60% of my check because I was the property of the state of Alabama. Burger King was aware that we were incarcerated, and they knew much of that money would never reach us. And I went without for that entire time I was locked up. But my labor was something that was constant. So many people have their hand in the cookie jar and continue to profit off of my body, my labor, the body of women I left behind in their labor. Coming home I just had such a deep sense of urgency to do something and to tell people about what I had experienced. And I'm an organizer to my very bones, and it makes me feel amazing because this is what I'm going to be doing for the rest of my life. People I love are denied parole and kept in prison because their physical beings equal capital for so many wealthy people in America. It would mean everything to me to end the exception that is currently in our 13th Amendment, because the consequences could mean that so many people I love could possibly come home. The 13th Amendment abolished slavery, except for me. Let's pass the Abolition Amendment and end the exception.
Q. They called a bunch of us Q last night, told me. Lieutenant Odell called us Q, told us we had to check out. We didn't have no choice.
It's Lieutenant Odell.
And I told him, I said, I'm going to go over and mess all kinds of stuff up. And I'm going to mess up so bad that you're not going to want me to go back. He said, why ain't you telling me this? I said, because I'm trying to be honest with you. Say me and you the trouble. You put me on that van and send me over.
And he still forced you to come.
And he still made me come.
All right. Now, what your name is again?
It was either come over here or go to LeBron.
Gregory.
Yeah.
All right. We appreciate you, LeBron Gregory. I'm talking about whatever the consequences of this video may be, you can be assured that we're going to make sure you all right, because you have just proved our point.
I ain't worried about it. I might be back over here with John in a couple of days.
All right. We got you when you come.
I like it here.
This is brothers at the Dayton Correctional Facility. They were beating each and every inmate this morning. Two pieces of bread, one piece of little fruit, and peanut butter and one milk. This is ridiculous. Somebody needs to do something about this. Just because the inmate don't want to work.
Incredible testimony and pictures there of the breakfast that inmates are being bird fed down in Alabama at the correctional facilities. Well, let's throw up the message from the inside, because, the prisoners have made demands and they have made statements, and I want more outlets to pick this up. And I big up, Black Power Media. I'm sure you guys know whoever else has been covering this, but it needs to be covered more. So I'm not going to read the whole thing, but let me just read a couple of excerpts from the message from the inside. Let's get that up. The message from the inside. Okay. So we, the incarcerated citizens at Alabama Department of Corrections, demand that the U.S. Justice Department intervene and put an immediate stop to Alabama's systematic denial of our human rights and human dignity, and rights. I can read on occasion, guys. The state of Alabama is in the midst of a humanitarian crisis due to Eighth Amendment violations. This crisis has occurred as a result of antiquated sentencing laws that led to overcrowding, numerous deaths, and severe physical injury, as well as mental anguish to the incarcerated individuals. And I want to read some of their demands, because there's nothing wrong with these demands. So they want, and this is something that obviously these are legislative issues that can be done, but the state of Alabama is so invested in prison labor and re-enslaving people that I know the legislature is not going to make any moves on this, but they're putting it out there, the incarcerated folks. So what they want is to repeal the habitual offender law immediately. They want to make the presumptive sentencing standard retroactive immediately, repeal the drive-by shooting statute, and they want a statewide conviction integrity unit. Good idea. Mandatory parole criteria that will guarantee parole to all eligible persons who meet that criteria. A streamlined review process for medical furloughs and review of elderly incarcerated individuals for immediate release. and a reduction of the 30-year minimum for juvenile offenders to no more than 15 years before they are eligible for parole. And lastly, they want they want the state of Alabama to do away with life without parole. And those are their demands. And there's a couple of things I also wanted to mention here. Big up to Daiwan Tatro, who himself is a formerly incarcerated person, is now a prison abolitionist and I believe author. I think they have a documentary or a documentarian with a documentary on Amazon Prime. I think it's like College Behind Bars. But they tweeted some very interesting facts here. So history. Following the Civil War, 73% of Alabama's revenue was derived from convict leasing. By 1898, in 1873, 25% of all Black leased convicts died. That is stunning. Today, Alabama remains one of only 5 states that pay incarcerated people nothing for their labor. Slavery still exists. Hashtag in the exception. At one point during the pandemic, Alabama averaged the highest COVID death rate in the country. Over 100 people died a day. At the same time, its Republican governor was diverting $400 million in federal COVID relief funding to prison construction. Oh my God, I do remember reading about that they are building new prisons, Alabama has one of the worst parole boards in the United States. It denied one incarcerated person who had already served 12 years of a 20-year sentence as a result of a marijuana possession conviction. Okay. So Alabama has one of the worst parole boards in the United States. It denied this incarcerated individual parole after serving 12 years on a 20-year sentence for marijuana possession, while people are legally making millions off marijuana and states are profiting from it. Welcome to the injustice system. And following the Civil War, did I already do that? Yes. And okay, the hashtag exception for me activation series raises awareness about the exceptions in the 13th Amendment that still allows for slavery as punishment for crime. Learn more about how to take action to hashtag in the exception at intheexception.com/except for me. And that what we saw with the young lady who talked about her experience as an incarcerated person working for Burger King, that is where that clip comes from, the except for me in the exception. And check out that website if you all could. We absolutely are riding with the prisoners down in Alabama who are withholding their labor as well. They fucking should. There is tons of money available to improve the conditions within the prisons, but they don't want to. The governor and the Alabama Department of Corrections, there's money out there. They are content to let these human beings literally rot inside of a cell, allow them to live in deplorable conditions. And since this strike has come, the retaliation has been increased. Facilities are not being cleaned. As you see, people are not getting their proper meals and a variety of other things. The organizers of these strikes are being retaliated against. I know at least one, according to the Free Alabama Movement Twitter page. One of the organizers has apparently been assaulted by prison guards and are injured as a result of that, being placed into solitary confinement. All kinds of retaliation is happening. So I would like for us to at least be aware that this is happening, to try to spread the word as much as possible to make people aware that these prisoners are being subjected to these conditions, and most importantly, that they have decided to fight back. And they have said no more. Guess what? I mean, we our bodies may be in jail, but guess what? We still have autonomy to say no. We still can withhold our labor. We still will not continue to do whatever part that we play in this system, obviously not to their detriment and whatever. I mean, people are in jail for the reasons that they're in jail. I can't even get into all that. But I think that while people are in jail, they need to be treated with dignity, with common decency, with respect, to have their basic human needs met. And let's also be clear, a lot of these folks are in jail either for A, shit that they didn't do, or B, shit that the sentence does not fit the crime. Marijuana possession and distribution, this one individual, 20 years? 20 years in 2022, and they've already served 12 years with marijuana available for recreational sale and or medicinal use. In a majority of the states of the country, we still got people locked up right now for marijuana, y'all. Marijuana people are still doing hard time for weed in America. I can understand why these prisoners are striking, and we send them love and solidarity, and in the ways that we can support them. I will do my due diligence to find that out. I was just really just trying to bring y'all the story. I need to follow up and see what the what the actionable items are that we as people, I'm assuming most of us do not live in Alabama, right? What can we as folks not in the state do to support those, not only the incarcerated folks, but their families as well. And again, if you go to the Free Alabama movement on Twitter, the families of these incarcerated folks are going to have another rally in Montgomery, I believe. And I think the date of that is going to be October 14th. So maybe we can talk to them either here or on BPM in advance of that action, so they can give us the real deals of what their folks are going through there on the inside.